Oh man, this is going to be an experience. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about Midsommar, a film about a bunch of 20 something year olds going on a retreat to a city or commune in northern Sweden where one of their friends grew up. Now, this immediately sounds very similar to The Wicker Man if you know that story about, this secluded tribe of people engaging in these strange, uh, culturally very different rituals that lead to some bad things happening. But if you've seen the trailer, you already know that. Obviously, spoilers ahead. I'll do a quick review before I get into the plot. The acting is all well done. I was really surprised by about everybody. There's one like boner fart bro in the movie, but he's not really played for direct laughs. He's just one guy in the thing who has the most reasonable expectations of the trip, honestly. Everybody else is like, they kind of have all these like latent agendas, but the idiot character is justified in that he's pretty reasonable in what he wants in the film. So even though his writing is the most different than the other characters, he's still utilized and makes sense. So the acting is pretty good on all fronts. They had a lot of care was put into the extras of the people in the commune and how they behaved and their different kinds of mannerisms and things like that. Not just when they were given their time to shine, but also when they're kind of existing in the background. People are definitely engaged in a way that they were coached on pretty heavily on how they should behave in this foreign and strange culture, essentially. Uh, the music was very well done. The end of the film has this pseudo kind of religious experience that you kind of feel with the imagery and the music. So that's really, really great. The acting, yeah, the casting was also really good. I thought everybody was great. There's one line in the film that the boyfriend character, who's like the male lead, has that took me and I think everyone in the audience out of the film. But I don't think it's a bad line. I don't think it's delivered badly, but it's like it's weird to see somebody be so honest in a film. Normally, when people watch movies, their ability to suspend their disbelief and believe that they're watching a real story, what they'll tolerate is very low. The phrase reality is stranger than fiction is very true. You can't deny reality. But if you have some story about a ghost haunting somebody and then forcing them to like kill somebody, you know, you're never going to believe that. Like when you write a story that you want to be taken seriously, you have to account for the audience's unlikeliness that they're gonna buy into this bullshit. And that one line, it was just too earnest. I don't remember what it is exactly. I'll try to explain it later on when I get into the plot. But the acting's well done. It only has one red herring that I didn't quite understand in the plot. The plot is well executed. Oh my god, fuck the acting. Who cares about any of that shit? I mean, that's an important part of the film. It really is an acting driven film. But the first 30 minutes, I mean, the first like 30 minutes are fucking they're fucking kino cinematography. Holy fucking shit. Let me describe this scene to you. So they go through a series of really well done transition of going through archways in the film. One is an archway where the girl goes into the bathroom and then she's in the bathroom on the plane. Another one, she goes. There's a few other ones. I don't want to spoil them in the review. But there's another one early on where they're driving in a car, and as they're driving down the road, the camera's like looking at the car's coming at the camera, and then as the car goes under the camera like flips around, and it's like following along with the car, and it's like upside down world now. And then they go past like a big banner that's like you're welcoming to like this commune place or something like that, and then the camera like flips back around to show you the banner or whatever. So they are going to this commune, this like basically alien culture, and the camera literally shows you they're going to like topsy-turvy world, like this is an alien place. Things are literally turned upside down when they go there. So that's like, real good. So yeah, the film has some other great moments where they use that kind of passing the threshold, if you will, kind of motif, and it's just great. The first 30 minutes are amazingly shot. It's just so good. There's so I could gush over it for a while, but yeah, I give this movie like a 7 or 8 out of 10. I would Hereditary, if you know that one. I think the director who directed this one directed that one, and that's like a 10 out of 10 horror movie. This is an 8 just because it's not scary, but it is disturbing. But it wasn't. I never felt like I never had any like I never cared that the people were gonna die. You know, like you if you watch the trailer, you know everyone's gonna fucking die. But that's how it happens that's important. So I guess we'll get into the plot. So the film begins, and the main girl, I believe her name is Danny, receives a strange email from her sister saying that everything has gone black and goodbye. Danny calls her boyfriend, and we have this long scene which sets the audience up for what to expect and how the film will be shot. We have a long scene, no cuts, of Danny just talking to her boyfriend on the phone, and we get Danny's perspective. And Danny seems like a pretty sympathetic girlfriend, and she seems pretty reasonable. Later on, Danny finds out the truth about what happened with her sister and her parents, who are in a home far away. And then we get the call from the boyfriend's perspective. He's sitting around at a bar with his mates, and they're all like, "Aren't you gonna break up with her? Come on, she's like totally like a rag, and and she's got like mental problems, blah 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 blah." And turns out, Danny's sister basically forced her and her parents to commit suicide by like running the cars in the basement or in the garage, and then piping the fumes up into their rooms, and she even has like a funnel over her own mouth. This really isn't explained in the film, so it's kind of like a red herring. I mean, it might be like she was a part of the commune or some crazy shit. I don't know. I have no idea. It's just a total red herring. Basically, her parents killed themselves, or her parents die, and her sister killed themselves. And then she basically is like kind of pitied into going along onto this trip to one of the boyfriend's friends, home villages in Sweden. And they know that he was from this kind of like commune or whatever, but they don't know how culturally different it is. So they get there, and the first thing they do is trip on shrooms. And this is where the one scare in the film happens. There's one scare in the film. There's no other scares in the film. If you're afraid of horror movies because you don't like you get spooked by loud, crazy flashes, there's just one scare. This is it. Don't worry about it. You should go watch this film. Danny like starts tripping balls. She starts seeing like grass growing in her hand, and the camera gets all like weird on the sides, and it gets like really like fisheye lens. Like you start seeing like if you ever see like a 360 camera shot of something, and you're on YouTube and you like spin the thing around, you can like go all over the place. It's like that. And she goes running off, and she runs into like what essentially is like a porta potty, but she doesn't know that. And the audience really doesn't. We don't have that confirmed either. She goes in there, tries to turn on a light. She sees a face behind her, freaks out, and runs away some more. And then supposedly she had been sleeping out in the woods for hours, but since it's like some weird solstice crap going on, it's just like daylight forever there. I don't know. So yeah, they freak out with drugs there, and then they go into the town proper, and they're given this big introduction, and they're just like watching everything, and it's all great, and nothing really bad happens. There's a lot of like, you see a lot of strange things that are kind of innocuous when you see them. Like a lady puts a pair of scissors under a crying baby's pillow. What does that mean? I don't know. I don't think that one we really ever figure out what that meant. But you see a lot of weird shit go on, and you kind of start questioning, and we're introduced to two other characters. There was another person who left the commune who has now come back, and he brought with him, I don't know the names of the characters because they are really only talked, I think they're only referenced two times in the film. It's an Indian woman and her black boyfriend. And they're more skeptical of this place than the main cast is. The main cast has the boyfriend character, who's a white guy who's working on his PhD and doesn't have a thesis. Black guy who knows his thesis is, studying midsummer events in different parts of like rural Europe. And then there's boner fart bro who just wants to bang hot Swedish girls. And then there is the guy from the commune. I think his name was like Ellipse. I don't know. Ellipses or something weird. Anyway, the beginning part is pretty nice. They eat some food. I think they do some more drugs. I don't exactly remember what happens, but the next big moment in the film that matters is that they go to they learn about like the cycle of life for these people. Essentially, from 1 to 18, they are like babies and they don't do anything, and then 18 to 36, they leave the commune and they basically like just do things in the regular world, and then 36 to 54, they come back, and then they live as like they do work in the commune, I believe. And then when they're like 54 to 72, they're mentors in the commune. And when they're 72, they jump off a cliff and die. So in the film they set this all up, and they really do a good job of like making these rituals seem like they're genuine rituals of like some weirdo people. Like everyone's a little too enthused with it though. Like if you ever watch like African rituals, like there's a lot of people standing around doing anything, and there's a lot of people who are like really into it. But that wouldn't really make for good cinematography. So everybody in this commune is like totally into what's going on. And there's two old people, and this is one of the best sequences, not scenes, but stories in the whole film. So there's two old people, an old lady and an old man. The old lady jumps, smashes her face on the rock, she dies. It's You see like the gore and stuff. It's pretty gruesome. It wasn't too gory for me, but for the average American audience, the audience reacted pretty spooked out. They were like, like wow. And then the man falls, and the man misses the rock, breaks his neck, and his body is mangled pretty badly. And that one looks a little bit more gruesome because he's like dying, but he's not dead. So prior to them jumping, the camera has been lingering on a hammer in the background. Yep, it's time. Some of the commune members grab the hammer, and four of them come up. One by one, they all smash Grandpa's face in with a hammer. Now, I didn't understand the significance of the face smashing though, but they smash his face in nonetheless. And this scene obviously draws a lot of parallels for Dani in a lot of ways, because Dani didn't see her parents die. She didn't see her sister kill them, and she didn't even see her sister die. Presumably they were in different states, or we don't even know what has happened even really after that. Did she attend the funeral? We don't know. So in the film, like, everybody's freaking out, like, except for like the black dude and the boyfriend character. His name was Christian, actually. Christian. And later on, Dani and Christian are like having an argument, and she like is kind of bringing up those issues, but then later on she has like a dream, and in the dream she like sees like her parents like fall in there. Like she places her parents in the position of these old people, destined to die or whatever, and like it makes that death real to her. So she kind of goes through this like crazy panic attack, and she's like, oh, you didn't even want me here, and all this other crazy bullshit, which is true. He honestly did not want her there. He says like, okay, I invited her, but she's not coming. Okay, so like, and also it was all your guys' idea, and I invited her, but she's not coming. But obviously she was coming along. We find out later on that the guy from the commune, Alex, or whatever the fuck his name was, he actually seems to have had a crush on Dani, presumably. I think. I don't know. So, yeah, that's the first fucked up thing you see, and it's like, yeah, we should leave. And Dani has that conversation with Christian, her boyfriend. She's like, no, they're killing people here. We should leave. And he's like, no, it just looks weird because it's a different culture. And he's like, we can't leave because I finally, I found passion. This is what I'm gonna do my thesis on. So this is where the friendship starts breaking apart, and this is one of the things the film does incredibly well. is that in a lot of horror movies where there's a group of friends, you think like, oh, well, if they just stick together, at least they can be reasonable and they're not going to do anything so stupid that gets them killed. Well, in this film, they have really reasonable things that bring the group apart. First off, you have the tenuous relationship between Danny and Christian. Then you have the relationship between Christian and the black character. I don't remember his name, but he's a pretty cool character in the film. I just don't remember his name. I don't remember any of the characters' names, honestly. There's a lot of people in the film. They're all over the place. But the black character already had a thesis, and then when Christian comes to him, he comes off as like this lazy asshole. So the black guy accuses him that. He's like, look, you just stealing my thesis. Like, I wanted to do this, blah, blah, blah. You're just like an opportunistic, piece of crap, blah, 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 blah. And Christian's response to that does not win any favors with the audience. As an audience member, when you watch this, you're like, wow, Christian looks like an asshole. We find out later on that Christian actually did ask their commune friend, Alep, whatever the fuck his name is, for permission to potentially do his thesis on them, but I feel like that was a lie, actually. I don't know. But either way, like, he's like, oh, well, I'll be willing to collaborate if you are. And it's like, dude, you don't even have any material, and the black guy has been doing a lot more work than you, so it's kind of ridiculous. But, yeah, and part of the reason, and that was part of the argument that Danny and Christian had, is that, like, Danny's like, they're not going to let you leave with this information. They're killing people here. They're going to kill you, you know? She doesn't say that directly, but she says pieces of that. And Christian's like, no, I gotta like study this. Like nobody knows about this. Like this is a great opportunity, obviously, right? And like so like that gives them a reason to stay, but it also breaks them all apart. Is that now the black guy and Christian, they're not friends anymore. Christian is a total douche. He's like doesn't he pretends to like high road and be like, oh well, I'll be willing to collaborate. It's like, dude, you don't even have anything. And the black guy like is just totally just like it's like fuck you, dude. I don't want anything to do with you. You're such an asshole. And then he does, I think, ask him something, and then the guy's like, oh no, you don't want to collaborate. Like it's totally shit. And then the commune friend Alep, I'm just gonna call him Alep. Alep is like kind of just he's just not even with them. He's just walking off constantly. He's not even there. He's got other shit to deal with. And then you have the boner comedy dude who's like basically just being an idiot. So I kind of forget what happens next, but they burn the bodies of the old people and they put them into a tree. And then boner comedy guy, he walks over to the tree and pees on it, and one of the guys like loses his fucking mind, and he's like, "Oh no, you're peeing on our ancestors!" And boner comedy guy is like, "What?" Like he gives the worst apology in cinema history about this. Like he's like, "Oh, I would like I don't. How did I know? Like you can't blame me for that." Like he doesn't even get to an apology. And then the one girl that he has a crush on in the commune is like, oh, blah, blah, blah. She says some stuff. And then Alep tells him, like, what she says. And he's like, oh, is that all she said? Did she say, like, he asked her, like, oh, did she say anything else? Like, asking, like, did she say anything about me? Boner comedy guy walks off. What happens to boner comedy guy? I don't even remember. I think so many people in this film die off screen. And that's what makes it so difficult to really keep in mind who dies when or how they died or like what even was going on a lot of the time, which I think is cool in that you're following Danny and Christian essentially, and you're kind of like you feel more suffocated in your isolation in this strange environment. But it would have been nice to just kind of like see a little bit more of the other characters' perspectives, because like the Indian girl and the black boyfriend, they didn't need to be in the film. They're in like three scenes. She just like goes off and dies and screams. The other guy obviously was killed. You find out later what happened, or you find out like you find out that they're killed, but you don't find out what happened to them. You find out what happened to boner comedy guy. Got one of the worst deaths, and Christian got out pretty well, all things considered. Danny comes out as queen though, literally. Oh man. So a boner comedy guy like dies off screen. I don't even remember why. It was really dumb. And the black boyfriend died, and Indian girl died. And then in this scene, there's a kind of competition about getting information from the elders. So the black guy is talking to one of the elders, and we find out that their holy texts that they sing from are literally written by intentionally incest breeded individuals. Like they got lots of malformations. That's where they get their holy text from, and it's like it looks like a retarded coloring book. And so he's like, "Oh, can I take some pictures?" And he's like, "No, absolutely not. You cannot take any pictures." And then the black guy sneaks into their area to take some pictures of the book, and you know what's gonna happen. He turns around, he sees like presumably a person wearing the black boyfriend's skin, and he calls him Marcus. And I was like, oh, I guess that character's name was Marcus. I don't. How did the? I'm pretty sure they weren't even introduced in the film, but somehow he knew his name. I don't know. It just seems unbelievable that he would remember his name. But either way, he gets hit in the head, and then there's an implication that he's sodomized very briefly, and then his body is pulled away. But yeah, so Black Eye's dead now. So we just have Christian, Alep, and Danny. There's a lot of I'm leaving out a lot of I'm just giving you the bones here. There's a lot of meat on everything that I'm telling you that bridges all these scenes together, but it is a very dense film and it's a very long film. So yeah, I'm just giving you the highlights for you to piece together kind of what happens to the characters a little bit. So now we have a festival where Danny is dancing around a maypole. And you know what's going to happen. Danny's going to win because she's like doesn't know what's going on. They all drink this like drug drink, so they're all like blazed out of their minds. I think it's like more mushrooms or something like that, but they're really having some crazy trips. And in the meantime, Christian has basically been like a love potion has been concocted on him. There's a girl who like puts a talisman under his bed. There's he was given a special drink during one of the dinners. He was the only person with the purple drink or pink, which we could assume was the girl's period blood, I believe. And then he also had a pubic hair in his food, and they really bring up the pubic hair in the film. They really hit you over the head with it. I thought that was a little too much. Like they all talk about it, and then when Christian is pulled away and he talks to one of the matriarchal figures, one of the head women, he's like, "Oh, I think I ate one of her pubic hairs," and she's like, "You probably did." And it's like, oh, okay. So then she tells her like, yeah, or she tells Christian like, yeah, if you want to bang this 15-year-old girl, you can do that. We've gone ahead and taken care of all the documentation for you to bang a 15-year-old. Go right ahead. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And then she kind of is like, this is a great anthropological opportunity. And he's like, oh, and we don't really see him. He does turn it down a little bit. I don't think he was drugged at this point. But yeah, so you have these two parallel situations. You have Christian, and his will is being eroded for this temptation of another woman who's vying for his attention, and he engages in that. And then you have Danny, who's gaining new friends, essentially. She's hanging out with a lot more women. She's finding herself busy in work, and she, was dancing around the maypole, and she ends up being the final dancer, and she becomes the queen. And then Christian goes on to bang a 15-year-old. That sequence is awesome. Basically, there's a bunch of naked women in this like building. They go in there. The 15-year-old is basically like served up on a platter, and he's banging her. And the older women are like, they're all like moaning in unison with her, and then they're all like heaving their breasts out, and and they're all old and pretty fat. But it's kind of, I don't want to, since it was such a disturbing ritual, I'm reluctant to say that it was kind of beautiful, but it was interesting. It's real interesting. But then when he's like about to finish, like another woman comes up behind. Like he's really like freaked out about doing this at first, because it's like I gotta perform in front of all these people. But when he's about to finish, a fat woman comes behind him and starts like forcing his buttocks, like don't pull out. So they thought about a lot of things in this film. It's really well done, and so that's what happens with Christian. And then Danny is the queen, and that's kind of where her like diversion ends, and they'll pick back up in a little bit. Christian, after realizing what he has done, and his dick is covered in, you know, broken hymen virgin blood, or maybe she was on her period too. I don't know. Christian runs out into the daylight and sees some people, and he like covers up his junk, and he just starts running around. He's like looking for help. He's like kind of has like a sobering moment, and he runs into Boner Comedy Man. Boner Comedy Man's body is being strung up over some chickens. His lungs have been taken out of his body and put behind him like wings, and I don't mean to alarm you, but he's alive. His eyes have been plucked out and replaced with flowers, but he is breathing. He's not dead. But he presumably can't speak and can't do anything else. So Boner Comedy Guy has one of the worst deaths in the film. I mean, Black Boyfriend did get his skin taken off though, so that's pretty fucked up. But yeah. So Christian, obviously, a guy like comes up behind him and blows some dust in his face, and he like gets all fucked up. Oh yeah, Christian was on drugs too during the sex thing because he was drugged before he was taken away. I remember that because a guy like fucked with him by like clapping in his hands in his face. And he's like, "Why would you do that?" Ooh. It was kind of silly. It's in the trailer, so don't worry. But so we have this scene where Danny's the queen now, and she's like covered in flowers, and Christian is in like a hobbled chair, and then you kind of finally find out the truth of the ritual is that they are killing or sacrificing 9 people, four of their own, and four people that were brought there, and then one like random pool person. And then they draw the number. It's like just some random person from their commune, or was it 5 from the outside world? I don't know, something like whatever. But yeah, the Christian's gonna be sacrificed, and then he gets sewn into a bear's carcass, and he's put in the middle of this yellow barn, and you have they have like scarecrow stick people for like the 2 elders that died. They don't put their corpses in there because they already burned the corpses, but they are symbolically part of the sacrifice. So you have the 2 elder people that killed themselves earlier in the film. You have 2 like middle-aged men that also are opting into this ritual, and then you have the 5 people, the 5 like non-commune people, and then everybody else is dead except Christian, but he doesn't have any kind of reaction. He just burns alive and dies. And the whole time, like, Danny's like looking at this in her like full, like, she's covered in like all these like leaves, and she's looking at it, and she doesn't really look sad because like Danny saw him doing the banging of the 15-year-old, so she's kind of like, that relationship's over. Pretty much. And also she got kissed by the Alep guy, so she and he kind of confesses to her a little bit too. Like he was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you came here." Like, and they have a connection. Both their parents are dead. His parents died when he was young. Her parents died a few months ago. So the ending of the film is like she's just watching her boyfriend burn alive. She doesn't really have much of an emotional reaction. I think was she. I don't even think she like expressed any kind of sadness. I thought at the end she smiled. I don't remember, but obviously the ending of the film can go a few different ways. One of the ways it can go is that she's gonna die. I really doubt Danny's dead if the story continued. The reason being is because in the film they only killed people related to that ritual. Now they might have another ritual where they might kill her. I don't know, or maybe they do kill the queen also. I don't know, but they only killed people related for the ritual. There was a fifth. There was a kid in the rock, and that was really funny. They didn't kill him to make Danny happy, but then they killed him later on. That was really funny. But Danny's probably not dead because they only killed people related to the ritual. Also, Danny probably is like gonna just, I guess, live on the commune and start a relationship with the Alep guy because he confessed to her. He said that he was happy that she was there, and then he said that he like kind of always liked her or whatever like that. And he kissed her later on after that confession. She was pretty wasted though, but she didn't resist. Or I mean, that's a pretty rapey argument, but like she seemed to be kind of like, yeah, sure at this point. Like, there's what else are you gonna do? Like you're in a literal like, such a strange world, and you're such a stranger that you kind of just have to like go with it to survive. So probably out of a survival necessity, Danny's gonna engage in a relationship with that guy. It's pretty much it. That's the end of the film. It just cuts to credits after her watching Christine burn alive, and credit roll. So you can take with it what you will. I don't think Danny's dead. I would be surprised if anybody had that interpretation. Honestly, uh, yeah, it was a pretty good movie. 8, 8, 7, 8 out of 10. I I wouldn't say the film dragged. I did see the director's cut, so it probably was a bit different than the theatrical release. But it did need a little bit more perspective of the other characters, or just because they're just there to die, but you don't even see the two characters. Like, they should have just had 7 sacrifices. Don't even have the two. I don't know. I really did. It just wasted screen time, and it was a pretty filled movie already. They didn't. It was thick. Every scene was thick. You could not look away from the camera, which I had to go to the bathroom once in the film. I don't know. It was rough. Anyway, thanks for hanging out.